morning, Commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Welcome everyone to Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. This is Chair Catherine Harrington. In the room, we have Commissioners Willie, Treese, and
what's your name?
I thought I started to my left. That's the part that
that guy
uses my brain. Commissioner Roy Rogers, and virtually we have Commissioner Fye. We're going to take care of the various draft letters of support to Congress under item 3 and dive right into topic 2. But first, because I always forget to ask, does anyone have any questions with regard to today's formal agenda?
Nope.
Okie dokie. Great. Now we're on to topic number 2, some committee assignment changes. So a couple have come up. Commissioner Rogers would like to vacate his seat for the Region 1 Act.
Yeah,
Did I put that correctly?
yeah, they really want somebody who can fulfill a 2-year term. That's what they really like. So
Even though we sent them a letter 6 months ago saying,
things change.
yeah. And then I've asked Commissioner Willie if he could take on the second board liaison position to Acre. And with that, have Commissioner Tree serve as the board co-chair to Acre. So, Region 1 Act. Not me.
I think since I'm on Northwest Act as well, so that's a natural position. We just step in for Roy for a couple of years.
Can you be on 2 acts?
You can. Did you say no or yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You said no, then
If Commissioner Treese is good with that. Commissioner Fye? Okay.
oh, please.
So Jory, is she in the room? If you could write up a letter to that effect, great. That'll be that. Do we need to take a formal vote or is our letter sufficient? Okay, great.
we need to take a vote on the acre. I don't remember the bylaws on this. I think it's just
Our
assignment.
decision.
Yeah,
It's a board assignment.
but we don't have to
Yeah.
vote.
Nope.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Onward then to topic 3, and this is brought to us by our government relations team, all things state and federal. Welcome, Aaron Doyle and Tracy Rainey.
Thank you. And Carly should be joining us shortly. She got stuck in traffic and she should be here momentarily. And Pablo is online. And Zucker has caught whatever the capital crud is. So I'll be stepping in for him today.
Capital crud of 2024. Short sessions are not immune.
Apparently it is quite devastating and awful to have. Pablo has conveniently recovered from it and I am just waiting my turn. Not excited about it at all. So we will do our best to get started with the PowerPoint.
Would you like to start with the letters first?
Oh, yeah, we should start with them.
Great, let's do that, and we'll warm up with the letters.
Thank you.
So, we have, I believe, 5 of them, 6.
There are 2 letters related to broadband access or the ACP, and then there are now
There's 9 in total, I think.
so
Let me run through them.
perfect.
So the first one is a letter of support from Clean Water Services for the Western Washington County Inflow and Infiltration, also known as I&I Rehabilitation Phase 2 project. So as we wear our Washington County Board of Commissioners hat, we're writing in support of the CWS request. All those in favor, thumbs up, great. The next one is a letter of support. support for Portland State University's SINC equipment, which stands for Semiconductor Innovation and Nanoscience Center.
This request is the first of its kind from PSU to us in Washington County. It is a part of their workforce development program they have for technical and advanced degrees related to the semiconductor industry. It is to purchase equipment so that their lab is up to date and makes them a better organization to properly train folks headed into that sector.
That one goes just to our two senators. But given that PSU is also in Rep. Bonamici's, we should at least CC her.
So my goal with these letters is to get the substance of them signed onto. Right now, each
Got
the
it.
House and the Senate have separate processes.
Yeah.
Senators Merkley and Wyden do it jointly. All of the representatives do it individually. So I would take the same content and just put a different header on it
Okay.
when asked for those representative letters.
Letter number 2.
Got a question,
Whoop,
Yes.
go for it.
and this is on all of them. There isn't anything here I don't support. I've always been of the opinion that you can only have so many silver bullets to use. I've asked this before, but just for the record, I mean, we look like we're spraying silver bullets everywhere, more than we have. So are we jeopardizing what we really want by being a friend to everybody and a letter writer to anyone?
Commissioner Rogers, I don't believe so. I think it shows that we function with our partners to support all things that lift Washington County's communities. And each of our letters, as per usual, states that we first and foremost support our own requests, but these are also good requests.
I always ask the same question. You give me the same answer, just for the record.
At least we're
Okay.
both consistent.
All right, we're both consistent.
Yep, yep. Okay, letter number 2, thumbs up.
Yep.
Commissioner Fye. Thank you. Letter number 3, letter of support for Hillsborough's year-round shelter.
Here's my thumbs.
Thumbs up. Okay. Letter number 4. For Twilight Hills Park and Rec District, THPRD seismic assessments of emergency shelters and roof replacement project. This was one where we had a tour last summer. Thumbs. Commissioner Fye, thank you. Next is for the bipartisan introduction of the Affordable Connectivity Program Extension Act. Oh, we need this. This is for the Affordable Connectivity Program. Thumbs? Thank you. Next, whoops.
There's 2 letters, one to the representatives and one to the senators on the ACP. So we're working both sides.
So sums up both.
Same. Okay, the next letter is the City of Beaverton Laurelwood Avenues Neighborhood Access Project. This is one of the hard copies you have at your station. This is for a continuous sidewalk to connect that neighborhood up. There's no funding request.
We normally in the letters of support don't specify. Sometimes we do when we have that information. We did not receive that information from Beaverton, but I'm
Okay.
imagining it's in the $1 to $2 million range.
There's a misspelling.
Oh,
I believe
thank you.
it's, it says Schools Ferry Road. It should be
Oh, yes. Last sentence in the first paragraph.
Thank you.
Thumbs up on this one? Okay.
It's a new road right alongside of Shoals.
wasn't 82, was it?
It's me over here.
Inside joke. Last letter is for City of Beaverton North Transmission Line. In,
Intertime.
oh, thank you, Intertie
Yes.
project. This is for water. Connecting up to JWC for a 24-inch transmission main. Seismic on this one too. Okay, great. Thank you for being efficient on letters. Now into our presentation. Look there, it's waiting for us.
Yay. Thank you very much, Ford. I'm sorry about the 2 last-minute letters, but it seems with no matter how much lead time they give us on appropriations, it takes to the last minute. So This morning, we're here to talk to you about the 2024 state legislative session update and with Clean Water Services, because they've got a lot happening as well. So pleased to have our presentation be joint, and yay, perfect timing. So this morning, I am pleased that our agenda includes the first item. I'll have Carly introduce herself in just a moment, but our newest member of the government relations team has joined, and she's already hit the floor running. We've gone down to Salem a number of times, and she knows as many people in the building as I do already. So that is perfect because she just means she's going to meet more people. And then we'll go into the update itself. So to start with, I wanted to let you know what the portfolios look like in this right now. And I wanted to be clear that Carly will be working at the state level, and I will be covering those issues at the federal level for her, given the nature of the funding for her position is through ARPA. Therefore, she can't lobby at the federal level. Also, she comes from the federal level, so she's got a moratorium. But we did do some rearranging between Zucker, Pablo, and our shared portfolios, and we're looking to where the ties connect each other so they become very natural. So land use and transportation does a lot of construction, therefore public contracting makes sense there. So we move things around a little bit, and we'll be adjusting portfolios after this short session if we need to. But this is what we are so far. But as always, you can reach any of us and we will get you the right GR person. But for now, I'll have Carly quickly introduce
There's a mic
herself.
right there.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Carly Silva Gabrielson, and I'm very pleased to be here with you and officially a part of the Washington County Government Relations team. I most recently came from Capitol Hill, where I was leading communications for a member of Congress from Hawaii. And prior to that, I was with former Congressman Peter DeFazio in Oregon's 4th Congressional District for over a decade, where I spent a lot of time working on electoral politics for former congressmen. So through that nature, I love transportation infrastructure policy and also a good IPA. But I am, again, I'm just really honored to be here and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you so much.
IPA stands for Infrastructure Policy Act, right? Or agreement.
Yeah. Or probably A-okay. So with that introduction, we will go into the state session update. And of course, our perennial question to you when we do these is what further information do you need about state legislative work? And as I said, Zucker is out quite ill today. So I will be helping cover his stuff, but I will not answer any questions until I have an accurate answer. But first, we'll turn it over to Pablo, who is down in Salem today.
Thanks, everyone. So as updates and amendments to HB 4002 have been shared with us, we've worked closely with our departments to collect information about the potential fiscal impact to the county. It's been especially challenging to understand precisely what these impacts would be because the legislation includes policies that some of them would be brand new, would operate differently from many existing county programs that address public safety and behavioral health issues. That said, based on the analysis our departments have been able to do, we expect the implementation costs will likely be in the millions of dollars. Of course, legislators working on this legislation, they've indicated that they would like to fund counties through the impact grants, which we discussed in the GR team's last presentation. So we're going to work closely with the Association of Oregon Counties to make sure they have all the updated information that we're gathering. And this is one bill that's been, changing pretty frequently as well. We expect to see some updated language this week or early next week that will shed some more light on the intent of the legislators who are developing this legislation. And of course, we'll be sure to share that information with our departments so that they can provide additional fiscal impact analysis to the agencies as well. So that's been kind of a moving target for us. I guess moving over to HB 4071, this is a bill that Zucker's been working. Aaron, does it look like you wanted to say something?
I have his notes. So
Okay, great, go for it. Yeah.
First on the CAT we understand that we are on the shovel-ready list, which is the list of projects that is expected to receive funding for. We don't know the amount. We also haven't seen the final list, but we're very hopeful that the CAP will receive that final push of funding that we need to close out the project. Yes, 8 million. But never count your dollars until they're finally appropriated. And then on House Bill 4071, the licensure reform, Zucker has informed me that outside of other workforce concepts that the University and Colleges and the United We Heal Training Trust have put together, we haven't seen a lot of movement on our behavioral health workforce, but we're starting to make traction. So we have hope for years in the future. Our $10 million ask is, we're hopeful it could still be included in the overall omnibus package in 4002, but there's no guarantees. How
Can I ask a question on that 4071? Is that for lack of legislators' attention, or is that running into lobby groups trying to protect turf while we have a workforce crisis?
I don't know the answer to that question because I haven't been on the ground to hear from legislators. I think there's been a lot of questions. So 4071, which is our work that Zucker's been doing in coalition with others to pass the social work compact and counseling compacts, which are two agreements where we'll accept licensure from other states.
Yep.
And the chair, what he has written is the chair of Behavioral Health and Healthcare Committee did acknowledge the need, but wants to do more to reach agreement in the licensing space. So my assumption is that there has been some pushback from folks who are in charge of licensing, and there will be continued work and conversation on that.
So I think where this board is at is we can't wait. You're not hearing legislature, you're not hearing the word crisis.
The pain.
Yes. And we need to press that message.
That is definitely the messaging that Zucker has taken in the last two sessions. And
But I think
we're starting to see traction. He's doing good work, but it's not moving everyone as quickly as we need to.
Yeah, I think we need to use our voice and have a presence, because we can't wait. Our community can't wait. I was at the City of Beaverton community meeting last night on the Beaverton temporary shelter, and every forum we're getting constituent complaints about the lack of mental health supports available in the community, the lack of addiction treatment services, and it's all centered on workforce. It's like legislators light a fire under your butt and do something that addresses the crisis. So
yeah, we will continue to work you guys into that conversation to push forcefully. With that, that's the summation of the workforce package and all the information that I have. Pablo, what further information about specialty courts, community corrections, et cetera, do you have?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So for specialty courts, we're waiting to see how much funding the legislature will allocate for expansion of existing and new specialty court programs. They have indicated that they would like to do that, but of course, actually seeing the amount of funding will be the most important thing for us. And there is a bill that's moving forward that's intended to improve the long-term stability of that funding. That bill is HB 4001. It was introduced by Speaker Rayfield. The bill would establish a task force on specialty courts, which would have 2 seats for county representatives, one for counties over 300,000 and one for counties with 50,000 or less. One of the stated goals of that legislation is to identify the most appropriate funding mechanism to ensure the long-term stability of specialty courts in the state. So we'll be watching that bill closely and keeping an eye out for any information about the amount of funding that they're looking to invest in specialty courts. I know that there's some interest from this board in expanding our existing courts and creating new courts potentially as well. When it comes to community correction funding, we've heard some mixed reports about the status and appetite for the $16 million funding request that we're supporting in collaboration with, of course, the Association of Oregon Counties and the community corrections directors. We still feel like we have support from key decision makers, but we're working closely with our partners to make sure that legislators understand the urgency and importance of that funding for improving public safety in our communities. And of course, the need to separate this funding from any funding that would be needed to implement HB 4002, which is the Measure 110 reform bill. So yeah, that's another one that we're keeping a close eye on.
Any further
If we can-
questions?
Yep.
I think it's getting to the point where we need to start drafting a message up that we go public with post-session, that the state legislature, yet again, another session where we've been talking about how they've dismantled community corrections and they're not owning responsibility. It's been a problem since 2019.
Might be an opinion piece.
Well before that.
Yep.
Shall we-
Yeah, thanks, Chair Harrington. I know it's been in some ways a frustrating conversation, I know, especially in the long term here. And next year, actually, sorry, later this year, there are plans in place already for the Department of Corrections and community corrections agencies to work together to identify a better funding model and to improve the existing model, I should say. And I know there's some legislators that are really looking forward to that opportunity. I think they have a lot of questions about community corrections funding, and we want to work with them to make sure that we're answering all their questions, being as transparent as possible. Unfortunately, in the short term, we need that funding, right? Our community corrections agencies are really struggling to keep up with the evolving needs of the
Let's
people
move
that
on.
they serve. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, we will work on crafting that message and pulling through this interim. So to another fun area, the second big topic of the session has been housing. There have been a number of bills, and I'm not going to get completely into 1537 because I'm going to leave space for Tracy in her slides to talk infrastructure. But the governor's bill has passed its initial threshold and is down in Ways and Means to fund what infrastructure is left in that bill. The bill tracker that was sent out apparently on Monday, because I thought it had sent on Friday, but it had a pretty complete assessment. But the big changes that we're going to see that have impact on us are the Housing Accountability and Production Office. It's still there. It's still an oversight body that can send us into litigation if people feel that we are not properly executing housing laws as they make application to develop housing. There have been changes to the infrastructure portion. In the UGB edition, streamlining is like too many words, but there have been significant changes made in that, and I want to highlight those. In the metro area, it's down to a total of 300 acres and also allows for UGB swaps instead of expansions as a possibility. And has also further restricted both inside and outside of metro which cities qualify. So it is an increasingly tighter tool. In our assessment, just broadly looking at things, we're not sure that any cities in Washington County will either inside or outside metro will have the ability to access that process. So that is the big changes in Senate Bill 1537 and the impacts on Washington County's work. House Bill 4063 did not go to Ways and Means. It is currently waiting on the House floor for its floor chamber vote, and therefore will move over to the Senate side. This is the bill that includes increased responsibility for housing planning in the urban unincorporated areas within Metro. We have talked to them about the funding issues and the fact that they're adding work to our workload, and they are working on putting together the technical assistance package in other places, which we will be eligible for, but it is not a guaranteed straight shot of money to us to do this work. We will continue to work on that. I will say our staff in the LUT worked very hard to fix the middle housing partition work so that we can actually accomplish it, and has made it feasible for us to do the work. It's not additional work, it's just changing the process. And then there are recording and assessment changes that are also included that will have impacts on our work, but have been agreed to and have minimal impact on those departments within the county. So those two organizations have worked really hard to represent us in this conversation to make sure that we can do the work without additional costs. So that is where House Bill 4063 is right now. Given the deadlines, they have to get it through the House process so they can get it scheduled on the Senate side. A couple of other bills just to note is 1564 calls for the development of some model codes. We're not sure that they'll be effective for us, but it is something we have asked for because it reduces the workload if we could adopt them. And Senate Bill 1530, there is significant amounts of funding included in that for homeless services and affordable housing. And our goal there is to make sure that the metro area is eligible and competitive within those programmed fundings, but we will continue to support that investment as well. That is the housing update. Does anyone have any questions? Well, then we'll go into the other bills that might be of interest as quickly as possible to get through it. Pablo, we'll start with you.
Thanks. So, SB 1541, this is the bill that would add new circuit court judges in Washington County, Clackamas, and Jackson counties as well. I want to take a moment just to thank Chair Harrington for her testimony in support of that bill on behalf of the board. I also want to thank all the members of our local Public Safety Coordinating Council who stepped up to submit letters of support. That advocacy was well received, and we've had even some positive press coverage for it. I spoke with Senator Przansky, who chairs that Senate Judiciary Committee, and he indicated that we're on track to get that bill passed. Of course, I'm still working closely with OJD, Oregon Judicial Department, to make sure that we continue connecting with the key decision makers that we need to get this passed out of the Ways and Means Committee. We're also seeing some really good support for our courthouse project. Myself and Judge Guptill testified to the Capital Construction Committee last Friday to advocate for that project. Representative Sosa has also made it a top priority for him as well. And we're collaborating to elevate the importance of the request to the Ways and Means co-chairs and the Capital Construction Committee members. Moving over to forestry. So there were a few wildfire protection funding bills that were introduced this session that would have, expanded or created taxes that are used to support wildfire funding throughout the state. Two of those bills did not make it through the first committee work session deadline, so they will not be able to move forward, at least in their current form. The one bill that is still alive is Senator Steiner and Representative Marsh's bill. That bill would increase the forest products harvest tax, which is based on the volume of timber that's harvested by forest landowners. And it's notable that a provision that was originally going to create a lot of trouble for our assessment and taxation department was taken out. That provision would have charged $10 to each property lot in the state, and that was kind of ill-defined, and so it would have been problematic from an implementation standpoint. But yeah, I think, those are my updates on forestry, so we can move to pay equity.
Hang on one sec.
Oh, sure.
For Commissioner Willie, for your testimony today, what bill or topic is that related?
That was 4061, I believe it is, House Bill, and it's pertaining to it's a bill to require the state forester to put together 5-year projections of harvest, and that ODF would have to comply and meet those because right now there isn't any floor to this. So ODF could decide not to harvest if they decided to, if they wanted to. And so they're just trying to put some parameters on it. This House bill did not make the cut, but they've given a courtesy spot for us today at 3 o'clock. So that's what I'll be doing.
So this relates to all of our forestry, HCP,
Correct.
FMP, board direction.
Correct.
Thank you.
On the pay equity reform, what Zocker has informed me is that this bill is also not moving forward. It was part of our greater workforce recruitment and retention concepts, but there is going to be a work group over the interim where they take a comprehensive look at how pay equity is impacting our ability to recruit and retain. So we will be working to be invited to that conversation so that we can, a number of our departments would have some interest in what happens with retention and or hiring bonuses and how we evaluate pay equity, including HR, the Sheriff's Department, HHS, LUT, all of them looking to recruit and retain employees. For the foreclosure process, turn to Carly.
Hi, Commissioners. The foreclosure process bill is moving, which is wonderful news. This bill would essentially create a statewide template to fix unforeseen complications arising from a Supreme Court case last year, which you're all very well aware of. Yesterday, we had a productive meeting with Representative Conrad, who plans to organize an informal work session in the next week. And last week, the Revenue Committee did have a public hearing on the bill. So we are tracking it closely and optimistic that that we will see passage hopefully this session, which Mr. Conrad expressed a lot of optimism about.
Where's he from?
Benton County area. He comes from a local government perspective. And actually, Tracy and I both worked with him in a previous life for him and for us. One bill that is not on here but needs to be mentioned because it now has an amendment that is going to be of impact to Washington County potentially is House Bill 4026 with the -1 amendment. This -1 amendment is a retroactive prohibition on referrals to the ballot for urban growth boundary expansions. And this would have a direct impact on North Plains. As written, the bill is statewide and permanent, but because it's retroactive, it would include the North Plains decision to expand. What we are working to discern is what impacts that might have on our elections department, where they are in the ballot creation process, and if they're going to have to redo work that's already been done if this bill is to pass.
Wait a minute, how did we go from recreational immunity?
That's
to
what I-
Sorry, I'm
4026.
I added in here because there's a transition piece on recreational immunity that I was going to do. So this bill was not included on the slide because
Not connected.
not connected,
Added to.
added to the list of
Okay.
things that should have been on
So
here.
there's a new bill
There's a
that
new
we're
bill
talking
not
about,
included on the slide.
4026-1.
4026, the -1 would have a retroactive effect, so it would impact the North Plains referral, which means we as the elections office for that will have to watch and determine if that's going to have an impact on the pre-work that our elections team has already done. We're asking them right now if they've already gotten to the point where they have to undo work.
Well, ballots don't drop yet. They do go to the printer.
Yep.
So
Give me a 30-second, 45-second topic of what it is. What's it say?
It basically says a city's decision to expand its urban growth boundary cannot be referred to the ballot by any means.
So that's the main purpose for 4026?
That -1 is a gotten stuff, and so it become the entire purpose of the bill.
And we have not taken a position on the essence of the bill prior.
Correct.
We are only looking at the amendment in the relationship to the impact on our elections.
And my assumption, but we're getting confirmation, is that there should not be an impact on elections because the filing deadline isn't until mid-March. So if this bill is to move forward before the end of session, they haven't printed any ballots yet or put the materials together.
On a side note, could I ask you what LOC's position is on this?
My understanding, and I can confirm, I will triple check at this point, but the League of Oregon Cities does support this effort. It is a statewide initiative related to all urban growth boundaries and expansions in the future and in the last year. That was just informational. So on recreational immunity, Tracy and I are tag teaming this because it does have impacts on both the county and clean water services and our ability to provide access to trails and parks, and therefore is an important issue to both of our agencies as we allow people to come into our recreational spaces. As it sits right now, we are comfortable from the perspective of the county that we are included in the protections, but they are temporary in nature. They are adding particular activities to the list of presumptive recreation to include walking and biking and running, which is things that we do on trails. That is, and so the presumption that it is recreation means that it is covered by recreational immunity. That this bill comes from the issue that arose after Newport had someone walking across a bridge, slipped, fell, injured themselves. And the court determined that they weren't recreating because she did not believe herself to be recreating, but merely using it as transportation to another recreation site. It's really hard to tell what someone's intention is from the outside. So this is a temporary fix, and there will be a further work group from Clean Water Services perspective. Here.
First,
Yep.
does it look like this bill will pass?
Yes.
Session.
I
Thank you.
apologize.
I think that, yeah. It is included in a larger bill, an omnibus package. So, it does seem like this is a legislation that will pass, and
Great.
the language should stay in there,
Moving
knock
forward.
on wood. So,
Yes.
yes.
To qualify as recreation, does there have to be a trailer bike?
It's anything that we allow people to use. I don't remember if it does not speak to trails or sidewalks or anything it's what you're doing in the open space.
So if we have a basin, the runoff, clean water service, that we're not saying to come recreate, but there's a patch of grass out there and people slip and fall, will this covered? Or do we have to post every site saying, stay out of the area?
My understanding is that this would only apply to those areas where we are trying to promote recreating. So I think in other areas where we're not providing public access, that falls under different
Does it
life.
fall under the provisions like what, you have a swimming pool and you don't fence it, that's an attractive nuisance, somebody
Mhm.
gets injured, you're liable. So if the county or Clean Water Service has a patch of grass and people are out there throwing frisbees, playing baseball, whatever they're gonna do in fall.
How about this? How about if we have our legal counsel
Yeah.
look at it and
Yeah, I
work
think
with
it's a
our
good
government
point.
relations
We can
team?
follow up on that, but yeah, I think there would be a difference in where those liabilities fall based on, again, where, like, for instance, Fern Hill, where we're promoting that for recreational opportunity.
Or you're, they'll come in here thinking of one, or maybe some problem then. Okay,
For us, we're pleased that there's no ambiguity about whether we can provide the public access to some of our amenities and facilities that we are wanting to promote as recreational for the public. Like, again, like Fern Hill has been, I think, a really good example of that. So it's temporary, and we'll continue working on it with the longer term fix coming next session. So, but those are all good questions to flag.
Okay.
Okay, it's me. All right, thank you. And again, good morning, Chair Harrington and Board for Clean Water Services. I'm going to touch just really quickly on some of the main bills that we've been focused in on. We're certainly tracking many more bills than this, but spending quite a bit of time in the areas that are listed on this slide. Certainly, as we expected, housing and water infrastructure has been a big topic of conversation. I will say that it's encouraging to see the legislature recognize the importance of infrastructure, including water infrastructure and sanitary and stormwater infrastructure. I think that has not been the case in past sessions, where we've had to remind them that stuff is absolutely critical in order to support housing production. We are at least seeing that there is a lot of messaging and shared understanding that we do need to make those investments to support housing. House Bill 4128 is specific project funding. Clean Water Services was contacted through a variety of channels, including direct communication with Representative Helm, about any projects that met certain criteria that were connected to promoting further housing production. We sent a list of those projects that our team was able to identify that met the various criteria. We were very pleased to see that we are included in House Bill 4128 for some specific project funding for a pump station that will support the development area in Cooper Mountain. And so that bill is off to Ways and Means, and it has about $90-some million worth of direct allocation funding. The understanding I have in talking with legislators is that they want to get some money going. They understand competitive programs take some time and take some effort with agencies to establish and get the rules. So they wanted to see investment made in the next 2 years on projects that would help promote housing. So that's great news for Clean Water Services to be included in that bill. Senate Bill 1537, Aaron already mentioned the governor's housing bill. I will say there was some really, really great language that our team helped to facilitate what that would look like with Representative Helm and Representative Gomberg. And it was where policy meets engineering world. It's really, really good language. So we're disappointed that language has now been removed from the bill. We are talking with Representative Helm and anticipate that that'll be a conversation and they'll pick that back up in 2025, but would provide for both a long-term competitive program for both site-specific infrastructure to support housing production as well as capacity building. For us, that was the big message. You've got to have that capacity building as well. So that's where a lot more of our infrastructure comes into play, but you can't have just the site-specific and not have the pump station or the increased capacity on a conveyance line.
Do you think that was just because the folks who were working on the main intention of the draft 9 amendments were so focused on that they removed other parts?
I think that there's a number of ideas out there as to how you get at the infrastructure challenge. And I think that they recognize the limitation in the budget right now. And so as opposed to creating and establishing the fund and not funding it, they thought, let's have this conversation in 2025. So it's my but again, it's exciting. It says things like 90%
Crisis,
design
let's
completion in there.
just have a work group and wait. Oh,
I know. So, yeah, but it was, our team put in a lot of really good work. And so we'll keep pushing on that because I think that they're heading in the right direction on that. House Bill 4099, just wanted to mention, we've just been watching that one very closely. This is around our financing tools for infrastructure. So system development charges being one of those tools, and would create a voluntary deferral fund. So the state would put in, it's $10 million that they're looking at. If a community, if a local government wanted to delay SDC collection to certificate of occupancy, they could do so. And the risk then, if the developer did not pay that, would be on the state. So the local government would then get compensation from that state fund. I think there's a lot of questions about whether that amount of money is enough and how many local governments are going to be the first in line to voluntarily try this out. But we are watching that closely. I don't anticipate, being now that this is in Ways and Means, that we'll see a policy change on that bill. So it'll remain a voluntary program.
on that, which organization, which part of the agency of state government will be managing that fund such that they will be charged for provided with the charge, the work responsibility to make sure that, to make sure that it doesn't get oversubscribed?
The program will be placed in the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department, and they would be creating an application. The other piece of it is that they would be allowed to charge interest to developers who they cover, they go after them. So even if it's oversubscribed, it should be replenishing itself as well as if the state continues to fund it, but it would be their responsibility.
I hope they're investigating how many LLCs disappear after a neighborhood is sold. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah.
Technical one.
Sure.
If you ran it by your council as to whether 451 organizations can apply, especially to the first couple of these, are we eligible under 451?
Yes, yeah. Our read and look at that would be, we're eligible under all of these.
That's a good thing.
So,
Okay.
yes, whether or not we'll participate, that's a different question. So emerging contaminants, House Bill 4049, we talked about this, of course, going into the session, but this is a bill that we are anticipating, and it was a bill introduced in the 2023 legislative session, being led by the Oregon Association of Clean Water Agencies that we work really closely with, and would be a study of the fate and transport of PFAS in biosolids that are land applied. The bill was moved through the House Ag, Land Use, Natural Resources, and Water Committee, and is now in Ways and Means. And so to be determined whether the legislature will fund that. That's exactly what happened in 2023 is we ended up in Ways and Means and nothing did not come through on that. But it's certainly something that we're supporting to make sure that, again, policy decisions around these emerging contaminants are being done so with sound data, sound science being applied. The last bill I'll just mention very quickly, invasive species funding. House Bill 4148 includes a lot of different investments and programs, including invasive species council funding, which we're supportive of, again, especially in light of emerald ash borer and other invasive species that are problematic for utilities. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Is it as chaotic as you expected?
Yes, I always expect maximum chaos in a short session and they never cease to not meet my expectations. So just quickly a reminder of our next steps for your, as the GR team, we'll continue to monitor, provide the weekly updates, and we will be back in front of your board on the 19th of March as a collective team to do a session recap. In the interim, if we have anything that urgently needs board consultation, we'll find a way to do that. But at this point, we kind of know where everything is. It's either Ways and Means, second chamber, or not moving forward. And then after that, we'll be refocusing ourselves into that legislative conversation on public safety and justice needs in April, working with all of the important players in that, including yourselves. And then in May, we will begin our process for starting the 2025 legislative agenda because there's no time like the present.
So for that recap, I think a couple of things that will be really useful. There were our asks of the short session and just the status. Did they happen? Did they not happen? Or were they kick the can down the road through a work group? Then separately, how many work groups is the county and are the county and CWS needing to participate in as we work towards the long session? Having that information as part of the recap will be really useful to us, I think.
We'll make sure to include that. And then this is a legislative calendar. We are somewhere between that first red box, that second red box and the third red box. So deadlines are fast and furious at this point in time. And Constitutional Sunny Day, my favorite day of the year, is March 9th.
So I had been planning on taking a long weekend, Friday through Monday. I need to advance that due to family needs. So I'll be out Wednesday through Monday. And I know Commissioner Treese has an extended weekend as well. So the three of you may need to cover any last minute
Right.
testimony.
Ice will play.
We will
Good
make
luck
sure
with
that
that.
they play
Ways
according
and
to
Means
agenda.
isn't exactly going to have more dollars.
If you need testimony on Friday, I can be available.
And the legislature doesn't enjoy working on Fridays, so we'll use
That's
you
fine.
if we need you.
That's
and
fine.
We'll do the same to any of you. We appreciate your time and your questions. Happy to answer anything else that comes up for the rest of the session. Thank you.
Ms. Angie, I will be keeping my two SHS related meetings on Thursday.
Not really.
Okay, so that's it for this topic. We will come back to work session, hopefully after an early completion of our business meeting, and we will pick back up on the facilities capital improvement plan. So see you about 11-ish or so. So thank you very much. See you later.